Why foreign-born players are some of the best players in the NBA. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategy.
That'll turn you into quitters. Show no mercy, give you no pity. When we come through, we take the keys to your city. We gon' unlock it, show you how to rock it. You was out of pocket thinking you could ever stop it.
Today we're talking about why some foreign-born NBA players, namely for this video, Luka Dončić and Nikola Jokić, why they are some of the best players in today's NBA. Now, first of all, this video is just my opinion. It's just what I think. If you completely disagree with me, that's perfectly fine with me. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. I'm not here to convince you to agree with me. I'm just telling you what my opinion is and why. Second of all, this video is based pretty much on stereotypes. Now, I don't think stereotypes are necessarily good or bad. They just kind of are, and there are some truths and stereotypes. And what's the overall general stereotype about the NBA in like the last 60 years? Well, the overall biggest one is that the best NBA players and thus the best basketball players on the planet are tall, athletic, black guys. And I bring that up because when we're talking about today's NBA, when you have foreign-born players like Jokić and Dončić, they are unathletic, foreign-born white guys. Now, yes, we're only really talking about the two of them, so that means there's only two particular players that are consistently year after year considered the best, some of the best players in the NBA. So on average, you know, it's still the vast majority of the best players on the planet are tall, athletic black guys. But to me, it seems like the momentum is shifting in the direction wherein, let's say, you teenagers, you 20-somethings watching this video, by the time you guys are like retirement age, decades from now, I think it's possible that when you talk about like the top 10 players in the NBA, it's very possible to me that, say, 5 or 6 of them are going to be white, foreign-born players. I think it's unlikely, but I think it is definitely possible. Also, when you bring up the likes of, say, like a Dirk Nowitzki, right? When Dirk was in his prime, you could say, okay, maybe he's one of the top 5, top 10 players in a given year. But when I'm talking about like Jokić and Dončić, we're talking about they're considered the top 2 or 3, 4 top players in the NBA year after year. It's the consistency that has changed. Whereas like with Dirk, it was maybe here and there he was the best, but with Dončić and Jokić, it's like, yes, they are two of the best players in the top 5 in the NBA year after year. So now let's talk about why I think that is. That brings me to the AAU. So let's go over a brief history of what I perceive to be what has happened in the AAU that has led me to this opinion. So AAU basketball has been around forever, right? But it really didn't blow up until like the 70s, the last 45 years or so. But to me, the biggest modern day event that's taken place in AAU basketball history was when LeBron James got drafted to the NBA and immediately lived up to the hype that was surrounding him. When that happened, I believe AAU coaches saw dollar signs in their eyes. They thought to themselves, well, if I can find the next LeBron James and get him to the NBA, I can make all kinds of money from that. So then the AAU had to come up with a system of how are they going to do this? How are we going to find the next LeBron James, the next NBA superstar? Well, first of all, you got to flood as many kids into the AAU system as possibly they can. But okay, even if you do get as many kids in the AAU basketball programs as possible, how do you go about actually determining who has NBA talent compared to the 99% of kids in the AAU who probably don't? And the AAU, motivated by money, was very intelligent, very smart. They came up with the idea that, I know, what we'll do is we'll develop an optimal basketball training program. We will teach these kids in AAU starting as young as possible, 7 years old, to play basketball exactly the same across the board. We will teach every single AAU kid to play basketball exactly the same. So if you live in Portland, you get the same basketball training as someone who lives in Tampa. We have the exact same skill set across the board. That way, whenever a player stands out among the rest from the 99 other percentile, right? It's those few players that stick out here and there that have the potential for NBA talent. It made finding those NBA prospects much easier, and it worked. Because of that, since LeBron James, the NBA has been flooded with AAU talent to the point where probably if you're born in the United States, you cannot make it to the NBA. Of course, there are exceptions to this, but it's very probable that you cannot make it to the NBA without having first gone through 10 years of the AAU program. This AAU system was also successful in the terms of, to me, today's NBA has never had better skill, higher skill than it does today. Also, the NBA has never had better, higher talent than it has today. So there are definite upsides to that AAU system. However, also to me, at the same time, simultaneously, what is also true is today's NBA, watching it as a fan, has never been more boring because of that. And it's boring because when the NBA is flooded with former AAU players, that means all of the players, like well over 95% of the NBA, used to play AAU basketball. They were taught AAU basketball for 10 years, and then they bring that to the NBA, which means now pretty much every NBA player has exactly the same skill set. They have exactly the same game, the same playing style. They all play basketball the exact same way. That means if you're a fan and you know the game, you understand the game, that means watching the game, watching players play and have the exact same game as each other, that makes the game predictable. And the more predictable watching the game is, the more boring watching the game is. So what does that have to do with Jokić and Dončić and why they stand out and become some of the best players in today's NBA? Let's get right into it. What this has to do with players like Jokić and Dončić is that what you have to keep in mind is that other countries exist and they play basketball there as well. In case you don't know, North America, we are the only countries that play this AAU NBA style basketball. Every other country around the world plays international style basketball. And I can speak to this a little bit because in the 90s, I did play basketball overseas. And over there, they actually still love basketball. They have a passion for playing basketball, for competing at basketball itself, because their professional players are not grossly overpaid the way our NBA players are today. So maybe if you play professional basketball overseas, maybe the top players, like the top 2 or 3 players, are rich, but everybody is just pretty good off in terms of financially. They're not grossly overpaid to the point where they're like getting generational money year after year just to play basketball. Because of that, those foreign players, they continue to play basketball professionally even though they're not getting rich year after year, because they actually love the game of basketball. They have a passion for the competition. And when you have players like Jokić and Dončić, yes, they are the best of the best where they came from, thus they made their way to the NBA. And when they got there and they established themselves and they worked their way up to being where they are now, considered consistently 2 of the best players in the league, they're not considered that because they're actually better than 99% of the NBA. It's not like they have like better game than most of the players in the NBA, because it's just a matter of fact that the best basketball players, the taller you are, the more athletic you are, the better of a basketball player you're just going to be. That's just the way it is. But when it comes to like Jokić and Dončić, yes, Jokić is tall, but they're both unathletic. And yet, they're dominating the NBA with their games. And like I said, it's not because they're better, it's simply because their playing style is different. And their playing style is different because they didn't grow up being taught to be an AAU drone, an AAU robot. Now, they may have a different system for teaching their kids overseas how to play basketball, and maybe that their system is even worse than the AAU system. I don't know. My point is that when you are an AAU player, right, and you're taught to play basketball from age 7 to age 19, 20, and you're only used to ever playing that AAU style, that means you're only ever used to being defended by AAU players playing AAU style defense. And you're only used to playing defense against other players who are playing AAU style offense. But then when you get to the NBA and you come across players who are foreign born, who never played any AAU basketball, was never taught any of that, have a international style basketball game of their own. Now you don't know how to handle them, you don't know how to defend them, and thus you end up getting smoked. Not because they're better than you, but simply because their playing style is different. You are probably way more athletic than they are. You may have way more talent than they have, but it's the simple fact that they have a different playing style that you've never experienced before, and you face them. Like if you play in their division, maybe you play them 4 or 5 times a year, but if you're an NBA player and you're getting paid generational wealth every single year, why would you go the extra mile? Why would you try? Why would you put in the effort to compete and try to figure out how to be on that foreign-born player's level? Why would you put in that extra work and effort and time to compete with that foreign-born player when you only face them 4 or 5 times a year? And who cares anyway? You're getting paid $11 million this year. And so whenever you meet that foreign-born player, they smoke you because their playing style is different and you don't know how to handle it. Not only that, but once those foreign-born players get here to the NBA, they bring their international style of playing with them, but then they all can also compound that by learning the American style, the AAU style of basketball. And they put the two together, and now you are really in trouble when you're trying to guard that, because they have kind of the best of both worlds. They've learned the NBA style of basketball, and they've integrated that into their international style of basketball. And because the NBA is just full of former AAU players who only know how to play AAU style basketball, whenever they face another basketball style, they just get smoked. Not everybody, not all players. Of course, there are exceptions to that as well. But for the most part, like Dončić can be the leading scorer every season that he plays because most players are not going to put in the effort to defend him and learn how to deal with him properly, because why would they? They only play him a few times a year, and who cares? You know, you get paid $12 million a year, why put in the extra effort? That's why unathletic, foreign-born, white players, some of them are considered the best year after year NBA players from season to season. And why I think going forward, that's just going to get further and further in that direction. Now, why do I care about this? Why am I so agitated by it? It's not the fact that they're white, unathletic, foreign players. I don't have anything against any of that. That would be ridiculous. My whole point is, other countries are coming into the NBA and having such an impact, not because they are better. If they were just flat out better players, I would be fine with that. It's the mere fact that they are not better, they are just different. And because AAU is so restrictive, that these foreign-born international style players are having such a big impact. Shouldn't current day NBA players be concerned about that and try to do something about it? But I understand that they're not. Why? Because they are overpaid, spoiled babies. They don't care about competing. Once you get past your rookie contract and you start making real NBA money, why would you ever care again about putting any extra work trying to get better than the players around you? Think about it like this. If an American-born white player goes through the AAU system and is not athletic, do you think he makes it to the NBA? No, he probably doesn't make it to the NBA, let alone become one of the top 2 or 3 players in the current NBA season. Why? Because if you're unathletic, sure, you can pay money, you can give money to the AAU to go through their system, and you can probably get into a decent college and play basketball there, but you're probably not going to get drafted into the NBA, not if you're a domestically born white unathletic player, let alone get to the league and then work your way to being one of the best players in the league year after year, the way Dončić and Jokić have. That's my beef. It's not the fact that they're better, it's just because they play a different style that they have created such success for themselves, and the rest of the NBA is just fine with that. I am not. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you found it insightful at all, then please subscribe to the channel. And of course, let me know down in the comments what you think. You probably have pretty strong thoughts and opinions just like I do. Like I said, you can completely disagree with me. That's completely fine with me. Just let me know down in the comments. But before you comment, make sure you hit that thanks button down below, because not only does that thanks button make your comments highlighted so they stand out from all the other comments, but also it directly supports the channel every time you hit that button. So for anybody that does hit that thanks button, know I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, like I said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, see you guys next week.
For trying me, it's almost embarrassing. You against me, there's really no comparison. I'm a beast of a different kind, and no matter how you try, you never take what's mine. You'll never outwork me.